Hi guys, it's Matt for Antihero Magazine, and I'm here with, I think, an Antihero first, in that we're interviewing two bands at the same time. It's Kadeem France from LOATHE and Lucas Woodland from Holding Absence. How are you guys? Welcome to Bournemouth.
Thank you. Yeah, really good, thank you.
And you're here because you're touring to promote your new split EP. This is As One, yeah. So I have to ask, I'm sure you've been asked this question a million times, but I'm going to ask it anyway. How did you guys come together for this project?
We've been friends for quite a while now. Like we're really big fans of each other's bands as well, and yeah, it just kind of made sense to work together, I guess. Yeah, and obviously we're with the same label as well, so yeah.
Yeah. So was it the label that really sort of like gave you that nudge to say, oh, by the way, you should work with each other?
Nah, it wasn't really that much of a nudge. It was more kind of, as Lucas said, really into each other's music, and we just so happened to be on the same label, so it only really made sense.
It was more like a vote of confidence from Sharptone, really, more than anything. Like we've said a lot how like Sharptone by no means had to do this split. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't make sense for either of the bands to really do it. You know, we could just move on to the next albums. You know what I mean? But it's just something unique that we wanted to do, and Sharptone have been wholeheartedly behind this. So, yeah.
And the split EP is becoming more and more rare. Like, you know, we're getting into like the online culture. You can just find all these bands on Bandcamp. So with all this, like, you know, getting rarer, was there any nervousness sort of going into this project?
Honestly, I feel like, if anything, as you said, like it's not really done that much anymore. That gives us even more of a reason to do it, because I feel like with the split, both bands that are involved have so much more involvement with pushing the music. We're doing interviews together, we're touring together, we're doing everything together, you know what I mean? So I feel like, there was no really nervousness, just like kind of more excited.
I think we accept challenges as well, both of our bands. Like, the harder something is to do, the more we want to do it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think to pull off doing a split release, like you said, it's just slowly becoming a huge rarity. Like, you know, you look at, like, back in, like, the early 2000s or whatever, like, Funeral for a Friend did one, like, I remember Deftones did one, like, loads of bands used to do them, and now it's, like, honestly, I could probably name you about, like, 2 from the last, like, 5 to 10 years, really, you know what I mean? So, like, yeah, it's just, like we said, it's something different, and we like doing different things.
And both your bands have very sort of old school 80s and 90s influences thrown in. So do you think this is your way of like getting closer to like, I guess, the roots of your genre?
We say this all the time about both of our bands, but like we kind of, you know, look back at the 80s and you know, the previous years of music.
Golden ages of music.
Absolutely, yeah.
And like as incredible as the internet age is right now, it's like it's kind of nice to just kind of prance around like as if we were some 90s band doing a split with our mates. You know what I mean? Look at like Nirvana and bands like Tad and stuff like that. Like back in the 90s, like nobody thought twice about doing a split release. You know what I mean? And now it's just like, why would you? I mean, that's kind of why we are, because why would you? You know what I mean? It's a different thing to do. So.
And because you are in this position where you can make a split, does it feel like, do you have that like kind of like world is our oyster kind of feeling at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. It's always been that from the start, really. Like from the start of World, and I'm pretty sure the start of Holding Absence, we kind of set out and told ourselves what we want to do, and we're kind of making that happen now, and we're living it really.
I think it's cool as well, because once you you know, jump through the hurdles you set yourself, like you kind of, there's more momentum and there's more inspiration to go on and do harder things, you know. I think for both of our bands it's been a very like refreshing experience to do something a lot of people would normally kind of frown at doing.
Yeah.
Because I believe we've done really well with it, and I feel like both of our bands are going to come away from this experience like better bands, you know what I mean? So,
And both of you guys have said in interviews before that your bands have like very eclectic tastes and like, you know, quite a lot of non-metal influences that go into your metal music. So do you think metal needs to get more eclectic and I guess more diverse if it's going to survive into this next generation?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I feel like you're seeing that a lot nowadays with the bands that are coming out, like in the local scenes, like Complex for one.
Yeah.
Like, they're changing it up a lot. Like I've never really heard a band like them in a while.
Code Orange, look, you know,
great band, yeah.
Totally. I think it's funny because like metal is incredible. Like I know it sounds really lame, but like to look at a genre that was formed in 1969, you know what I mean? Like, and it's been so many years, like 50 years later maybe, and it's just like it sounds so different and so similar at the same time, and underneath it all is literally just a passion for, you know, community, you know what I mean? And I think the thing is with metal music, it's more about the idea than it is about the sonic quality.
Yes,
you know
absolutely.
what I mean? Like I used to work in a metal bar, and like everybody just loves metal music because it's where you belong. If you're a metalhead, you're
place for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And I think as much as no man, I think as much as like, you know, everything needs to change in music. You know, everything. When you look at just instrumentation over the last 20, 30 years, synthesizers, you know, like bands like us and Loathe now use backing tracks, and you know, you used to look back and think like, you know, 10, 20 years ago, that would never have happened, you know what I mean? And it's like, everything needs to change, but at the same time, I think metal is one of the few things that will always be the same. You know what I mean?
And I know, speaking for Loathe as well, you're one of those bands, you're inspired by cinema soundtracks as well.
Oh, yeah.
I think you've mentioned the Blade Runner before in interviews.
Blade Runner, Akira, 28 Weeks Later.
Yeah, great film, yeah.
Yeah,
not as good as the first one, though.
Oh, no.
No, the first one is just...
First one's so sick.
So...
yeah, we take a lot of influences from movies. Just like anything that can make you feel like you're witnessing like some major scene from some sort of like dark or movie, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of the vibe we go for.
And that definitely came across in your album as well. I think that the first track that leads into It's Yours, that was kind of Blade Runner-y as well.
Yeah,
and I wanted to ask as well, does Holding Absence have any sort of cinematic influences in that regard?
I think yes, cinematic is a great word actually. Like more so like, I think it's funny because like I'm a fan of Loathe, you know what I mean? And like listening to the album, you know, it sounds really stupid, but like some of the like tracks in the middle that were like more down tempo with like pretty much interludes, you know. Like you kind of feel like you can see the transition scene in your head, you know what I mean? And when you watch a film, not everything's all about guns and, you know, fast cars. Like there's conversation, there's
flows a bit.
Yeah, of course. And I think that's what I loved about the Loathe album was like I felt like something was coming. Because they used the lack of music to kind of build, you know, anticipation. I think it's something we hugely respect, and I think with Holding Absence it's like we love that cinematic like depth to our music, you know what I mean? To know like underneath the guitars there's so much more, you know what I mean? And I think I mean, you know, I'd love to we've toyed with actually releasing music without the instrumentation, so literally just putting our backing tracks out there, just letting people kind of understand the depth to our music, you know what I mean? And I think we're writing an album at the moment, and there's going to be a lot of like movie soundtrack sounding things, you know what I mean? And, so.
And you did mention the Loathe album does ebb and flow. Was that the
100%.
intention when you were actually making the album, for it to have that?
Absolutely. Like in the beginning, we always like we kind of write a story for the album, and then base off the sounds and everything influence from that. So like before we've even started writing, we've got like from start to finish the vibe of what we want it to sound like sonically, you know what I mean? So I
think once you have an image in your head, it's so much easier to write a song, you know what I mean? And I think and that's what's cool, like as a musician, you know, when you look at bands like Loathe, it's like Kadeem just said, you know, like paint a picture in your head. It's so much easier to write a song about the picture rather than trying to write a song about nothing, you know, and then seeing the picture after you're done, you know what I mean?
And both bands as well, you have kind of a shared, I guess, fondness for melody and like melodic passages, like, you know, even Loathe throughout, you know, all the hardcore, there are still like sort of Deftones style interludes that sort of ebb and flow. So when you're writing songs, both bands, when you're writing songs, does the melody come first? Is that the driving force, or is it often something different?
I'd say, I don't know, I think it varies really. It's never really one thing. For some songs you can get the melody straight away, whereas it can take a while sometimes. I think it depends really on what the mood the band's in.
Yeah.
I think same with us as well. Like I think for me, I think the best way of wording it is like melody influences us to take songs in different directions. We very rarely will go, you know, banana, and then be like, ooh, let's start the song there. It's more a case of like something we'll have written over a general soundscape, I guess, and then kind of look at that and be like, do you know what, actually that's really cool, let's manipulate that and use it more in the song, etc. So melody is a huge part of how we write, but it's not the beginning of how we write it. So,
And right now you're joining us in Bournemouth, UK, because you're out on your co-headlining tour to promote the This Is As One EP. So I have to ask, as a band, you've worked together on the EP, now you're working together out on tour. Is there ever like that friendly rivalry between you two?
It's cool. We've never spoken about that. I think, do you know, like, it's not a rivalry, more so just like an inspirational kind of tap, really. Like, you know, every night it's like, Loathe just killed it, we're just gonna have to try out.
Same with these as well. Like, I'll watch your Holding Absence set and be like, yo, we need to be on that level. Like,
Yeah.
as you said, we inspire each other, so like
I
every
think,
night.
I think friendly rivalry is a similar way of wording that, of
Yeah.
course, you know what I mean? And it'll
So
kind of be
you
like,
each kind of like push each other to
yeah,
that
of
next
course,
level.
and that's so important as a musician, even in your band, you know what I mean? Like maybe Eric will do something and you'll be kind of like, well, I need to outshine him now, etc. So like, I think, you know, to be reminded of where the bar is the point of music, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
And am I right in thinking as well, on this tour you flip-flopped who goes on first and who goes on second? So how different a vibe is it when you're playing first as opposed to when you're playing second? Is there much of a difference there?
To be honest, dude, this tour has been like the crowd. I'm really proud of both of our bands actually for accumulating fan bases that are so open-minded. You know what I mean? Like no night has it been like crowd comes in, leaves, and then one of us is playing to nobody. You know what I mean? Like every night, Kadeem mentioned it the other day, but like, you know, they were playing and a dude was singing every word in a Hold an Absence hoodie, you know, and vice versa. So I think,
Yeah, I don't think there's not been like any mad difference in atmosphere. It's just probably a lot more singing when
and a lot heavier for you.
And obviously we've been talking about it throughout this interview. Loathe, you have your debut album out. That came out last year on Sharp Tone. Holding Absence don't have an album yet.
No,
so what's the progress like on your debut?
So we're kind of like halfway through at the moment. Like we're trying our best to take as much time as possible just to really make sure that it's the release we want it to be. You know what I mean? And it's funny because like it's cool right now not having an album because it's like, you know, wow, like I can't wait for it to come out and all these, you know, all the excitement that you get on the lead up to an album. But then obviously when you look at a band like Loathe and like bands like KC and Asteroid Boys in the UK scene, like an album does do a lot for you, you know what I mean? So on that spectrum as well, we're super excited to have an album out and ready to take on the world with it really. So yeah.
So once the touring cycle for this EP wraps up, are Loathing Absence going to go Loathing Absence, yeah. Are Loathing Absence going to go separate ways, or do you think you're going to find your way into working together again somehow?
We're good friends, as we said before, so we'll definitely be doing stuff together. Like we have a lot of the same creative influences and stuff. Not so much. I mean, I'd say musically as well, but more like kind of image-wise and like what it.
Aesthetic.
Aesthetically.
And I think it's cool as well. I think we both agree that like, I'm trying to think of a good example, but like, you know when you think of a band and then straight away you think of another band, you know what I mean? Like, I can't think of a good example, but like, you know, like we don't want it to become that. We do really want both of our bands to kind of be on our own legs.
You don't want to be in each other's shadow.
And you know, it's like, oh, I wonder who Loathe are going to tour with on this tour, and it's like, oh, Hold an Absence. You know, like we don't want it to be that. We really want to be our own bands. So we're excited to kind of come away from this. And if anything, I think the best thing about this tour was having the opportunity to be able to make something beautiful with a band we respect whilst we can, because genre-wise, success-wise, you never know what will happen in the future, and right now the stars aligned and we wanted to just make the most of it. So,
one last question to wrap up. You guys are probably two of the hottest metal/hardcore bands going in the UK at the moment. So I wanted to ask, are there any similar bands that you want to give a shout out to and like just promote?
Absolutely. Pretty much every band that's been supporting us on this tour. So we've got like God Complex, Parting Gift, Modern Era, Sleep Token.
I love Sleep Token.
Brilliant, man, we played
Absolutely
them yesterday, they're awesome.
Fantastic band, one of my favourites, absolutely.
But yeah, like, I mean, there's a million others, and that's why in some interviews we've just literally not said any bands because like we don't want to leave any out, you know what I mean? But, like, every day of this tour we had the freedom of basically handpicking the supports. And we just kind of chose every band that we kind of believed in from every city we passed through, you know what I mean? And like the music scene right now is so good in the UK, and it's like
absolutely
super inspiring, and like you said, friendly competition. Like it's great to be able to look at some of these bands and be like, wow, like look at what they're doing right now. Can we work on that in some way, etc., etc. So so the UK scene's sick right now. So.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. Everyone go and buy the This Is As One EP. Until then, Holding Absence, Loathe. Thank you so much. Cheers, guys.